the frozen, make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stays. We make a whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my.
The Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this October 22nd day. Maybe one of the last of the really warm fall days, up in the 70s today.
75 degrees today.
I believe. Going to be dipping back down into those 50 ranges during the day, though, so we'll see. What happens with this weather, but so far, not too bad. Colors outside certainly look nice in the foliage, driving around all over the place behind.
I think either this week
every
or next
slow
week
driver
will
on
be
the road, which
probably the
seems
peak.
to be just the way things are these days. I mean, have you guys been running into this lately?
Yeah.
It's just, are people just stargazing at the?
Yeah, I get it all the time.
Changing colors of the leaves. Yeah. It's been like 3-4 weeks. I'm stuck behind every slow driver on the road, no matter where I go. Come on, people, move it along. All right. Anyways, let's say hello to my Mr. Right-Hand Man, Bob Broad Jr.
Hi, Scott.
Bob is.
Can
you tell I'm talking about weather? I'm talking about foliage. Yeah. I really don't want to get to the sports because I mean this thing with the Mets has gone on a little bit too far. Really. I mean, come on, it was cute for a while.
We had the
World
brooms.
Series now.
We got the brooms. Brooms are ready.
Unbelievable. Bob is thrilled beyond words. His show Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. Mike Toohey in the control room running things. We just taped one of his shows. Fast moving. I think he heeded my advice last week.
Yeah.
I gave him a little hard time. No videos. He brought some videos today. Lots of topics. Fast moving show. Expose Cinema Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. Connor on the audio because once again in studio with us behind the microphone is Mike the Met Maniac McFadden, who also is thrilled beyond words.
Yes.
Absolutely.
How you guys feeling over there?
We're basking in glory.
No stress. 4-game sweep.
Yes.
Off until Tuesday. Get to celebrate for a few days. Get your pitching all lined up just the way you want it. Wait and see who you got to face. That's a pretty good position to be in.
You know, the thing about it is that, and I hate to bring this up because I know Scott has, feels differently about it, but if not for that Utley play, it could be 2 sweeps. You realize that?
Right. That's true. Well, maybe you got a little revenge there, obviously, when Murphy single-handedly beat the Dodgers in Game 5. But how could you do it to Donnie Baseball?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
gone.
Yeah, Donnie Baseball got the boot.
He is out after those 3 years of winning the division outright straight. First time ever the Dodgers did that, but he is gone because the Mets, once again, are a team that knocked them out of the playoffs early. The Dodgers don't go deep.
He might be going to Miami, from what I hear rumor-wise.
Are rumors flying that quickly,
yes.
Huh?
Wow.
He'll get a job somewhere probably. He's done a pretty good job, just hasn't had success in the postseason because his team, much like this Cubs team that you guys just dispatched, has only 2 pitchers, and that's about it.
Exactly.
You need more than that to get it done in the postseason. And the Dodgers' 2 pitchers are better than the Cubs' 2 pitchers. Arrieta, we know, had the great second half. Lester is good. Ask a Red Sox fan like myself, who never considered him all-time great. Certainly has a pedigree in the postseason. This year, not so much. And remember, it was 2007 when he first burst onto the scene in the postseason, which was a long time ago. He did have a big hand in them winning the World Series in 2013. But the Cubs did not have enough pitching, and really when it came down to it, the young bats who performed so well for them, especially in the Cardinals series, but throughout the year, couldn't handle the Mets' big arms and high-throwing heat. And that adds up to a 4-game sweep by the Cubs, and the curse continues for Chicago. Unbelievable.
And of course, you know what the curse is, right?
Well, a couple curses perhaps, but
The
we'll
biggest
go to the
curse.
big one, the curse of the GOAT. And there we have it right there, 1945. Billy Cyanis and his pet Billy Goat were ejected from Wrigley Field during Game 4. Cubs were winning the World Series at that time, 2-1, 1945, 60 years ago. Last time the Cubs were in the World Series, and they ejected him and the GOAT, and it's the curse of the GOAT. What was the name of the GOAT?
Murphy.
How about that? Murphy.
So Murphy's
and who
Law
does
rules.
it to the Cubs this time around in the postseason? Daniel bleeping Murphy.
They even said that at the beginning of, what was it, one of the games, they brought a goat in just to see if it would please the gods. But
they need to bring Steve Bartman back.
Yeah.
He has to continue to live in hiding after what happened to him and the Cubs in 2003 when they lost to the Marlins, who went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series. It was Bartman who interfered. You know, there was another guy on the sidelines there too. And Moises Alou lost his mind on this play, and that really fed the beast and the crowd throwing beer. And there he is, Bartman, sitting in silence, wondering what he had done. A lifelong Cubs fan, continues to be a lifelong Cubs fan who has lived in infamy and in hiding, still staying in Chicago, just out of sight, out of mind. And there we see the black cat that crossed the Cubs' path in 1969, a year that you Met fans will remember quite well.
Oh, yeah.
1969 was the first time the Mets made it to the World Series and won. The Amazins were born in 69, basically, after, 6-7 years of finishing below 500, not even being any good. And then suddenly, young guns like they have now, coming up big, an amazing run through the postseason, winning the World Series in 69. They made it back in 72, did not win it then, made it in 86, of course, when they dispatched the Red Sox in what was one of the craziest, unbelievable series of all time. The comeback in Game 6, which will go down in history as one of the great games in baseball history. I've had enough success since then that I can say that I'm over that finally. Once you win once and then you win two more after that, you know, you let bygones be bygones. And they remember after they won in 2004, the Red Sox, they let Bill Buckner back. That's why there were people trying to get Bartman to come back to this series. And he said, no, they have to win before I can come back. And he stayed away, and he's going to have to stay away longer because the Mets did it, and they did it in grand fashion. 8-3 was the final in last night's game, 5-2 in the pivotal Game 3. And really, the pivotal play there, we saw Cespedes racing home from third on the wild pitch, strikeout wild pitch. And that's when the Cub fans started to think, here go those curses again. We strike out the batter, and the ball gets away from the catcher, and the go-ahead run, which proved to be the winning run in that 5-2 final and the decisive Game 3. Because if the Cubs win that game, it's 2-1. The home team still hasn't lost a game yet in the series. You have no idea what could happen. That could change the whole momentum of things. But instead, they're down 3-0. And last night, Matz, the Long Island kid, got it done. Matz, he did enough to hold them off, and Murphy, and who hit the big home run early? They were up early. The 3-run, was it Duda?
Duda.
Last night, early. You know, every time I turn these Mets games on, they've got a run across the board, at least one in the first inning. They were up 6-0 in the second.
And then it was just waiting for that.
And then it was sayonara, Murphy putting the finishing touches on it. His 6th straight game with a home run, which is a postseason record. They're calling him the new Mr. October. Yankee fans not too pleased about that. Yankee fans not too pleased about this whole thing.
Yeah.
They can't believe it.
Yankee fans are all up in arms because their team is not in the...
They're out, and the Mets are in. Last time they were in, of course, it was the Subway Series in 2000 when Piazza had a broken bat that Clemens, Mr. Steroid Head himself, blew a gasket, roid rage, throws it. I still can't figure out why was Clemens not ejected from that game. That could have changed that whole series right there.
Right.
I mean, he picked up the bat and threw it at Piazza.
Yeah,
why is that not an ejection? Can somebody, I'm still waiting for an explanation from that some 15 years later. It's not coming, I don't think. So anyways, how do you guys feel? I mean, did you want more excitement? Was it too easy? I mean, what do you think?
I think basically the Cubs just didn't show up.
Cubs did not show up at all.
I mean, their bats were just silent.
A friend of mine saying they're playing like it's 2003. No, in 2003, they went to a Game 7 in the NLCS. They actually played well in that series before the Bartman episode took place. But in this series, I mean, they scored 2 runs, 1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing doing. Interesting stat, and you would not think this is so because they are a home run hitting team. You would think they could handle a fastball. The Cubs, as it turns out, were the worst team against pitches of 95 or higher mile per hour. So they could not handle fastball high heat this year, even though they had such a great record and did so well. But your big guns, who we know can throw the heat, shut them down. And, you know, you had to like it. Harvey in game 1 setting the tone because he is ultimately the guy when you think about it. DeGrom has been outstanding. Noah Syndergaard, Thor, as we like to call him with the golden locks, he has been great as well. But, you know, you would like Harvey to be the man, and he did well in that game 1. Cold temperatures. I think that could have maybe set the Cubs back as well early in the series, and they never got out of it. When you're facing 95, 97 mile an hour heat and it's 30, 35 degrees out, that is a tall order, and they couldn't come up with it. So they will continue their long-running curse. You know, how many years it's been? 108 since they won a World Series, 60 since they've been in there, and your Mets. So who do we like for them to face? I heard maybe you wanted Kansas City, or maybe you wanted Toronto between the two of you. I'm not sure who you would prefer as that series continues with KC up 3-2. Toronto with a big win yesterday to extend that series back to Kansas City for game 6 and maybe 7 if necessary Friday and Saturday. But what do you see there? Who would you guys rather face if you have a preference at all?
Scott, personally, I think both teams are going to pose problems. I think the Royals are a gritty team. You know, they were there last year.
Been there last year.
And the thing about that team is that, they grind out at bats. It's like whatever they discuss before the game, they seem to tailor it to the pitcher. So whatever, you know, if a guy, for instance, like Harvey, you have to be in the strike zone when you face that team. And one thing that I think they will do that the Cubs didn't do, a lot of the high fastballs that the Cubs were swinging at, I think the Royals are going to be a little more disciplined. And then with the Blue Jays just have a terrific offense. I mean, you have guys there that you pitch on, like Batista. You throw a fastball inside to him, he'll put it over the fence.
That bat flip is still flying through.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. They own the Yankees this year.
Oh, yeah.
Toronto,
Blue Jays,
yes, absolutely.
13 at the 6 of...
The Cubs did as well, 7-0 over the Mets in the regular season. I'll steal this from one Tony Kornheiser. That was BC, however, before Cespedes.
But here's my thing, too.
That's a
How
good
did
one.
the Cubs beat the #1 team, the Cardinals? They were the best team in baseball.
Yeah, Cardinals came in a little bit injured down the stretch, however. They were not at full strength, and their pitching was struggling at the tail end of the season. So there was some people kind of felt like the Cardinals were, of the top teams, the one that had the biggest chance of failing because they were not coming in at full health with some of their guys, and that proved out true as the Cubs really hammered it out, and that's a rival of theirs. I think they took out a lot of their old frustrations in that series. They could not do it against the Mets in this one. I think it's going to be a tough task. I mean, the Dodgers, who in that lineup strikes fear in you? Nobody. And the Cubs, as we mentioned, big bats, young guys. However, first time in the big stage, cold temperatures in those first 2 games, out of sorts coming back home, that crazy play with Cespedes scoring the go-ahead run, and all of a sudden they're down 3-0 on a wild pitch strikeout, and then it's over, basically. So I think, your pitching is great. It's not going to be as easy to shut down either Toronto or Kansas City. The other thing about Kansas City, I mean, how many times have we seen them score runs late in games?
Absolutely.
6th, 7th inning, all of a sudden they rally, they put 4 or 5 runs up on the board, and they turn a deficit into a lead, and then they run away with it. The one thing I'm a little concerned with what Terry Collins is doing, leaning heavily on Familia. I mean, he had a 6-out save during this postseason run, regularly bringing him in the 8th inning for at least 4 outs. At some point, that could catch up. Thankfully, this was only a 4-game series, so he didn't have to lean on him much, and he's going to get plenty of rest coming into the World Series. So you have to like your chances because pitching and defense gets it done, and you guys have good defense behind the good pitching. And the one thing about Murphy, I mean, I'm sure he would like to be playing again today.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got to wait till Tuesday, and hopefully this hot streak he's on continues. Somebody at some point is going to say, maybe we should pitch around Murphy, or at least don't throw anything low to him, because anything low, he is golfing out of the yard. Somebody, Joe Madden, hello, you know, the self-proclaimed, or at least all the baseball geeks claim he's the best manager. Oh, wait, has he won a World Series?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
In baseball, and he's completely outcoached by Terry Collins in this series. And, you know, somebody tell your pitchers, don't pitch low to Murphy.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, because it's going to go.
I'm surprised Murphy hasn't actually been put on his keister, or, you know, in the game. So
somebody's got to back him off the plate. All right, so let's shift gears. You know, we're going to have plenty of time next week as the World Series will be underway Tuesday.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be
game
up
1 and 2 will be in the books by the time we're back on Thursday.
Yeah.
I want to get to some college football before we go NFL, and since we got Mike here, maybe we'll get a little opinion from him on how he thinks his Jets are going to do against my Patriots this weekend. But college football, crazy game this weekend. Michigan's been getting all the love. Michigan State remains undefeated coming into that big game this weekend, even though the pollsters kept dropping them. Remember, they were ranked 2 in the polls a few weeks ago. They had fallen to number 7, I believe, before, or maybe even to 8 before this game against Michigan, even though they hadn't lost. Everybody picked Michigan at the Big House in this game, and they were down, Sparty was, by 2 points in the waning seconds, 10 seconds to go in this game. Michigan had to punt the ball one final time, and let me tell you something. It was a wild play as the punter botches the snap, then tries to kick it in midair, lands in the hands of a Michigan State player who unbelievably somehow races down the sideline with time expiring, stays inbounds, doesn't get tackled, goes down in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown, 27-23. Go Sparty. The Spartans beat Michigan. The Maize and Blue, big house blunder. Unbelievable. Sparty gets it done and knocks off Harbaugh, who was standing in stunned disbelief, as were the rest of those fans. Crazy finish, one of the craziest finishes in college football history. Reminded me of that play 2 years ago, Auburn versus Alabama. Bigger stakes on the line, although the stakes were pretty high in this game when you consider Michigan State remains undefeated in the race for that top 4 playoff spot. If Michigan had won this game, and then with the game against Ohio State late in the year still looming, they could have very well been in the championship chase. So I still think big stakes were on the line in this game. But that Auburn-Alabama game 2 years ago, SEC championship with the winner going to the championship game, turned out to be Auburn when Alabama lined up for the ill-fated long-distance field goal, and Auburn put a man back deep who fielded the short field goal, and then he went 100-and-something yards for the game-winning touchdown past the Bama defense, I guess it was, turned offense, or offense turned defense on the long field goal miss. So crazy play. Or how about the band play, Stanford Cal game from years ago? Another crazy finish. This stirred up a lot of those emotions. I know I was lingering in the house during this game, wanting Michigan State to win. Almost turned it off. I was on my way out. I said, I'll wait a few more minutes, see what happens, and I was rewarded. And yes, I was jumping up and down going, go Sparty, go Sparty, go Sparty, go. And they did, and they win. Too bad, so sad. They win. Harbaugh loses. That's the way it goes. All right. Other big games this weekend. LSU, I think people are making this into a big game, even though I don't really think it is a big game, because Florida's quarterback was suspended before this game. So how is this really a big game, and how is LSU going from 6, jumping over my Clemson, to 5, with a win, 35-28, a close win over against Florida team that just had their starting quarterback suspended for steroids. And how about the teams that Florida already beat this year, like Ole Miss? Did they get to play them again because they were playing against a quarterback who was on steroids, PEDs? I mean, how does that work? Where's the justice there? So Florida who is coached by former CSU coach Jim McElwain, who left them high and dry. You know, I got no love for him anymore. He left us high and dry. I appreciate what he did for the program, but, you know, he bolted at the first chance, and now he's employing a guy who's on PEDs, knocking off Ole Miss, who gets no recourse in their action, and then he loses to LSU, and LSU moves up the ladder for what? Beating them 35-28? That's not that impressive. If Michigan State is knocking down their, you know, falling down the polls for non-impressive wins, why are they moving up for a non-impressive win? This is where the hypocrisy of college football drives me crazy. So they do move up. Clemson moves to 6. Ohio State remains 1. Baylor jumping to 2. Utah 3. TCU 4. LSU, I mentioned 6. Michigan State is 7. Now Bama sitting there at 8, even though they were beaten by Ole Miss, who gets pounded this weekend by an AAC team. What is going on in the AAC? Memphis, who moves into the rankings this week now, is 37-24 winner over a SEC powerhouse, the same Ole Miss who beat Alabama. What's going on in the AAC, the disrespected AAC? They got 3 teams now in the top 25, which is crazy, as they join Houston at 21, Temple Owls at 22. This is going to be trouble for UConn, who lost homecoming this weekend in a tough 28-20 loss to Southern Florida. First real bad loss for Connecticut this year. They had a couple losses early that were, you would count as good losses, as they were on the road in tough spots, and they fared very well in those games. But this at-home homecoming against South Florida, 28-20, that is a bad loss for them. They did not want to lose that. But good things for the division as a whole, and that's what they need when programs looking to build themselves up. They need their conference division to get stronger, and that helps propel them further on to bigger things. So that is good that the AAC has 3 teams now undefeated in the top 25. We'll see how that all plays out. UConn is at Cincinnati, a 3-3 team this weekend. We'll see if they can bounce back. And another interesting thing about Michigan, let's go back to that real quick. In Bo Schembechler's first year on the scene in Michigan, as Harbaugh is now in his first year on the scene, he lost to Michigan State, then later in the year knocked off Ohio State. Can we see a repeat of that with that game still looming large? We will find out later in the year. Michigan can still knock off the undefeated Ohio State team, defending champion. That would be a good game, and I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning into that NFL action. All right, Mike, you know, we haven't really talked to you about football much. It's been all Mets. What's going on with your Jets, Jets at 4-1 coming into the undefeated 5-0 Patriots, Foxborough this weekend?
We should be 5-0. We blew the game against the Eagles.
Okay. Well, you did blow that game. They were up early and often.
But we helped them, and with turnovers and different things. But this game is going to be interesting. It's like you said, it's against
top defense.
Absolutely.
Against the top offense.
And I expect, I hope Bowles realizes that, like the Patriots do. The Patriots are going to take away one thing that the Jets love to do, which I think is running the ball. I think they're going to take Chris Ivory out of
pounding the rock.
And I think what they're going to try to do is make Fitzpatrick beat them through the air. And we're going to see how Bowles, game plans for that. But that's what I expect the Patriots to do.
So far, so good. Early returns on the new coach, Todd Bowles. I told you I kind of liked him this year, and I thought I liked the Jets as a team that would be pretty good. 4-1 is very good. Great running attack. 2 big-time wide receivers. Decker, I don't know, is a big-time wide receiver, but definitely a solid enough number 2 if Marshall stays healthy. Fitzpatrick is playing well in place of Glassjaw Geno, who is still out and never probably will be coming back at this point. But it's going to be defense against offense. The Patriots in the Deflategate game, I thought they played, I hinted at this last week, I kind of felt like everybody was thinking 60-7 final. I thought the Patriots were actually going to just toy with the Colts and not run up the score and not really care about pounding them into submission. Remember the thing about Belichick, everybody talks about his week-to-week coaching, game plan specific per team. The one thing people don't talk about is his year-long coaching plan. and he knows that the Colts own that division they're in, which is pathetic, and that it's a very good chance he might have to see them again in the postseason. He's played them numerous times, so he's not going to show them everything in that game on Sunday night. I think that's what was going on in that 34-27 Patriot victory. And oh, by the way, what was with that fake punt?
I don't know.
Unbelievable. Pagano, is he trying to get fired? You line up two guys?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that play was.
And it was the backup snapper,
Yeah.
the backup guy who was the snapper was injured. This guy had never even practiced the play.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. What is he doing? All right, so Mike, let's get back to this game. Are you going to pull a Sheldon Richardson, who today, did you hear, guaranteed, I guarantee we are going to beat is Rex Ryan back in New York?
Yeah, it must be.
Is some of that old Rexy, sexy Ryan still lingering in Jetland?
Scott,
guarantee from Sheldon Richardson, fresh off the suspension? Is he going to bring guns down?
Yeah.
Is he going to be speeding on the highway 150 miles an hour with his kids in the car and a stockpile of guns and drugs? Is that how he's getting to Foxborough?
Yeah.
You would have thought Bowles would have gotten to the team at the beginning of the week.
Goodness.
No comments.
He couldn't help himself.
I know. And
fresh off suspension.
And that's the problem.
We're running out of time. So a couple of the other things that happened this weekend.
My Giants went
belly up on one of the ugliest games in the history of ugly games, 27-7.
Well,
Turnover City, Sack City. Eli was on his back, throwing interceptions.
Yeah.
And I warned you of this, Bob. As bad as the Eagles have been, all of a sudden they're sitting on top of the division at 3-3.
Yeah.
With the Monday night showdown at undefeated Carolina 5-0 with a huge comeback victory. I also said that last week on the show. I had a feeling Carolina was going to beat Seattle, and they did up there in front of the 12th man, and they got a nice comeback victory. Pittsburgh had a nice victory over Arizona, so they've done well without Big Ben. Green Bay remains undefeated. The Broncos just lucking up with these games. 26-23 overtime victory against the Browns. Cincinnati remains undefeated. The Saints knocked off the Falcons. They're 5-1 now, not undefeated anymore. So one of those undefeated teams went down. Not that many big games, I don't think, this weekend. Looking at the schedule, I was unimpressed. Seattle at San Francisco, 2-4 teams. This game used to mean a lot. Don't know that it means that much right now. Buffalo at Jacksonville, another London game. Nothing big about that except for the fact that it'll be on when I'm drinking coffee in the morning. And that's about it for the schedule. Not much. We are running out of time.
We are out of time.
How about those Devils getting their first win against your Rangers, Bob? They're rolling the credit.
Yeah, we're out.
I guess we're out. I guess I can't talk about Joe Logano getting another win. The Middletown Kid. We'll keep our eye on him. All right, next week, World Series, we'll be back. We'll see what's going on. If they're up 2-1, 1-1, down 0-2, who knows? See you later.